So, one of the big achievements, really, of the Labour government has been the Renters' Rights Bill. It has given renters a lot of rights that they previously did not have before. And I think giving those rights to renters is great. You know, big leap forward. Could they have gone even further? Absolutely. I would have loved to have seen, for example, rent control in that bill. However, as we've talked about, a lot of the organizations that campaign for renters' rights, they're like, excellent, this bill is great. Now, once this bill is passed, we are all going to go full steam ahead and get rent reform. Like, that's their next goal. They aren't treating this as some sort of, we want everything or nothing. They are like, excellent, what we've got is great. It's a real good step forward for renters. Now we've taken that, and once that gets done, we can proceed to the next part, which is again rent control. And we've seen those conversations take place in the Labour Party on that. But of course, you've got a lot of other people, you've seen them in the comments saying, well, how's that, quote, progressiveness in the Labour Party going? Well, what do you think the Renters' Rights Bill is? They've done other stuff as well, but you don't seem to care because I think people are just like ideological purists. And as I said before, they want everything or nothing. And if they get nothing, they're just as fine because, at least they get to complain about it. But we've now got to talk about this because turns out that senior Tories and big landlords have now been meeting behind closed doors to try and discuss ways that they can thwart the Renters' Rights Bill. So always remember, guys, it's Labour that are the bad guys, but somehow this happening is, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to sort of talk about this, and I can guarantee you are going to do videos probably, having a go at the current government. Meanwhile, this has gone on, and I think this should be talked about because this is quite important. But, anyway, as always, before we do get into this, please remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Of course, there are links to my Patreon page, the One Off Today link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, the Patreon page, we've already mentioned that, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So, as always, let's crack on then into this coming. Pardon me, coming from The Guardian. The title of Senior Tories and Big Landlords Discuss Ways to Thwart Renters' Rights Bill. So, senior Tories have held private talks with big landlords about how to thwart the government's Renters' Rights Bill. The Guardian has learned now with ideas including to launch a legal challenge under human rights law. Jane Scott, the Shadow Housing Minister, recently hosted a big roundtable with several of the country's largest landlords and estate agents, at which was discussed a number of ways to even delay or stop the bill altogether. But remember, guys, it's Labour that are the real bad guys here. Anyway, these ideas include challenges not only in the courts to try and delay it with repeated rounds of Lord's amendments, or even according to 3 people in attendance. The discussions have now prompted accusations of collusion between the Tories and the property industry. They also now have given an indication of how hard the Conservatives are very much likely to fight the bill in its final stages, even though the party tried to pass a very similar version of its own proposals when it was in government. Anne Collum, the policy officer and the campaign group Acorn, said, the comments by, of course, Baroness Scott have now confirmed what we've all suspected, that there is now a coordinated attempt by landlords and their supporters within the Lords to try and frustrate the progress of the Renters' Rights Bill. She said the unelectable and unaccountable Tory peers are using underhand tactics to now deliberately delay vital legislation even more. The legislation, many of them supported in its previous guise, even under the last government. So they are right. There was some of this legislation that the Tories tried to pass last time, except this goes a bit further on this than that. But you know what I would be doing right now? If I were Labour, MP, I'd be turning around going, look at what these unelected, unaccountable lords are doing. Don't even make it, call them like Tory peers. Just go, look at what these unelected lords are doing. And I would be using this massively to push forward for some big, reform in House of Lords. Just turfing them all out, making it elected body far, far better, and what we should be doing. And I think this is what should be really being targeted on that. Paulette Chief, of course, chief executive of Shelter, said that England's over 11 million private renters have been waiting years now for genuine security and safety in their homes. While the reform, of course, now finally is on the horizon, it is finally and is completely and utterly a disgrace that just a handful of self-inserted peers are now resorting to very cynical delay tactics, designed now to slow the progress of the Renters' Rights Bill to a crawl. A Conservative Party spokesperson said that the Conservatives have been, quote, warning that this bill is deeply flawed and will lead to now a reduced supply of rental homes. That also means that there will be more homes on the market for people to buy. That will also bring down house prices. As, of course, is now standard practice with all legislation, the official opposition engages privately with a range of stakeholders to hear their views. So, yeah, they are basically trying to sort of frustrate it and make sure this passes as slowly as they can. And I think Labour should be calling out not only the Conservative Party here, but it should be highlighting once again here that the House of Lords is not really fit for the purpose of our democracy anymore. It is time that we radically rehold it. So, at the very heart, of course, of Labour's renters' rights package is, of course, a ban on no-fault evictions, due to come into force as soon as the bill receives royal assent. Other measures in the bill include private landlords from accepting more rent than the amount from the property which has been listed, and even enacting Awaab's Awaab's law that, of course, forces landlords to carry out essential repairs within fixed time periods. Again, some things that have needed to be done for years on this, years that landlords have been able to get away with. So it's about time a lot of these things get passed. Michael Gove did obviously attempt to act a very similar set of proposals when he was a housing secretary in the last government, but his bill failed to pass before the election was called. Since then, the new Tory leader, Kimi Badnoch, has now hardened her party's stance against such reforms. But remember, guys, it's Labour that are the new Tories, even though they are passing a whole series of really good reforms in this renters' rights bill that are very, very much needed. But anyway, Scott's, of course, meeting with landlords and estate agents did include representatives from the property group Get Living, Dexter's estate agents, and of course the National Residents Landlord Association, among others. Get Living told the meeting that they had instructed a very senior barrister to examine to bringing a legal challenge to the bill on human rights grounds, an initiative which Scott welcomed, according to two other attenders. One said that she told the meeting that the legal challenge might stop the bill dead in its tracks. So expect potentially a legal challenge, and we'll see what happens if they try to launch this. The Scottish Association of Landlords did obviously launch another similar challenge against the Scottish government attempts to, of course, bring in a temporary rent cap, arguing that it, of course, violated the right to property as enshrined in the European Convention on Human Rights, but that challenge ultimately failed. So a spokesperson for Get Living said the company wanted the bill to, quote, succeed. The spokesperson did, however, say that there is a group in the professionally managed retail sector that significantly contributes to the new housing stock. They are now concerned about the legal issues that the government faces if the bill proceeds in its government format. So basically, oh yeah, we're just concerned about some of the legal issues, your government's going to face if it proceeds in the current format. Yeah. That's not a legal threat, a very veiled legal threat against the government, is it? Scott also told the meeting that she would do everything she could to force the debate now on multiple amendments as a way of trying to delay the bill, telling those who attended that she thought that she could hold it up at least till the autumn. At one point, according to one attendee, she complained that she could not even find enough statistical evidence to say that landlords were leaving the market as a result of the bill. In response, attendees said that they would try and find the data she was looking for. So imagine that. I like we are claiming this, but I can't even find the data. And now someone says, "Oh, don't worry, we'll find you that data somehow." Anyway, Scott also defended the Conservative decision not to bring in Awaab's law, saying that landlords were, of course, not sufficiently well organised to be able to respond to tenants' problems within strict deadlines. And if you can't do that, why are you a landlord? You know, that particular law obviously refers to a child that had a home with black mold, and the renter had been complaining about that time and time again until, well, the child died, because of that black mold. I think landlords can very easily do stuff within a deadline. But here's the thing, they have to be forced to do so because they want to spend as little money on their properties as they can to bring in maximum profits. And at that point, that is where we have to bring in more controls, more things on here. And this is why when you look at all these groups that have been even mentioned here, campaigning for this type of stuff for years, they are excited. Finally, we've got all this stuff coming in. Now they're like, once we get this stuff, we can then go and focus on even more stuff. Like I say, rent control is one that they are all talking about doing. So, one of those who, of course, attended, who said that they were playing, quote, the devil's advocate, wondered aloud whether landlords should not be forced to become more organized. Not all the property group. I did like that. So someone says, should we actually then become more organized? Yeah, probably so. In that case. Not all, of course, property groups represented were, of course, very comfortable with the tone of the meeting. According to some of those who attended, some groups actually believe that the bill is going to become law eventually, and that it would actually be best to pass it quickly with very modest amendments to give landlords far more certainty. So even some landlords are like, yeah, this is going to become law eventually. We cannot stop this. Best to just, suck it up and move on. So I think this bill is very good. I think it is definitely achievement of this Labour government is something to be, I think, very proud of for this government to do. Getting it passed, I think, should be a priority. And if I were them now, I would be calling out this. Like I would be going after this. And not only that, I'd be going after the Lord as well. And I would be going, hey, maybe it is really time we have a very serious conversation about House of Lords reform. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.